How are we going to start this thing?
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Shouting Over Static, a video game show and tell project. I nailed it. That was perfect.
And then you ruined it.
I don't even care. That was great. Episode 13. Mark gets the intro down.
That's the title.
I introduced myself there as well. That was how natural that intro was. I said my own name. I'm Mark.
Beautiful.
I'm hosting. I'm the host with the most. Dylan is beautiful, isn't that right, Dylan?
Well, I'd like to think so.
And Kyaw is also beautiful, but in a different way.
Hello.
Hey, Kyaw. How you doing? How's everyone doing? This is my first episode with you guys in 2018. This is also our first proper episode of 2018 that's not just myself and Jack reading through a Wikipedia article about video games coming out this year. I had to edit a lot of pauses as we scrolled through a Wikipedia list out of last week.
Nice. That's what you need. You need a nice summary for what's coming up.
Yeah, I thought it was reasonable.
And now we can get back to, the core of our idea.
What is the core of our idea, Dylan?
Oh, I'm going to explain it to you.
Oh.
So this is our show and tell project.
Yeah.
Where we take someone brings one of us each week brings a game to the table. Don't tell everyone what it is until we start recording, so it's a nice surprise to talk through. And then we just discuss it, wherever that may take us. Sometimes it's rambling, sometimes it's actually quite nice and concise. But we'll see what happens today, since Chaw's bringing the game.
Oh yeah,
perfect.
I am.
Well,
I even got in whose game it is.
Yeah,
so good.
Without further ado, Kyaw, what are you bringing to the virtual table?
Right, I am bringing Call of Duty.
The entire series?
The entire series, and basically military shooters in general, and what it means to our gaming experiences, I guess.
No, I like that. I think we can talk quite heavily about that.
Yeah, I think we definitely have some chat there. So are we going so I'm guessing you say military shooters, you're saying Call of Duty, so that's ruling out Titanfall and Halo, yeah?
You can include those. Those are military shooters.
I'm just saying what's the scope? We going
so my
World
thought
War
was
II and modern shooters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my thought was, when you started playing shooters in general, and what you started with, and for me, I think that was Medal of Honor, and then I just moved on to Call of Duty after that. So that kind of thing.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. I mean, we do like to start our show with going through everyone's history with the topic at hand. So, sure. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about your relationship with military shooters?
Okay. So I started with Medal of Honor on somebody else's computer, and I got really into it. It was when they were still doing World War II.
Is that like raw-ass Medal of Honor?
Yeah.
Not Frontline or Rising Sun or anything, just like fucking Medal of Honor?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Cool. Although I don't remember much. This was when I was maybe 10.
That checks out.
I shouldn't be playing that at that age, to be honest, but yeah.
It explains so much about you.
Yeah, I am. So that's when I started with that, and then I don't think I played a lot of military shooters until Call of Duty 2, I believe. That's when they had the beach scene, the Omaha beach scene. That was pretty good. It was pretty intense. And then I played those on the computer, and then I played Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare. That was the one that got me really into military shooters.
Yeah,
that is the one. I think myself and Jack a few weeks ago, we did a full episode on just Modern Warfare 2 and what Modern Warfare 2 meant to us. So we know, yeah, we went deep on the sequel to COD 4 Modern Warfare for sure.
Yeah, a worthy game. I think that's probably a similar entry into sort of first military shooters for, I guess, most people our age.
Yeah,
lots of people. So. I think Call of Duty obviously was successful before Modern Warfare, but I think Modern Warfare is what really shot it up to where it is now.
Yeah, I think that's the title that basically introduced a very good online part of the game, isn't it?
Yeah,
But it's a different online part because I think so. I've got the same, a very similar thing. Like I say, my first sort of military-like shooter, like you say, is Halo, so it's kind of different. And then beyond that, I didn't really play anything until one of my friends. I think again, I started playing Medal of Honor before I played Call of Duty.
Okay.
And then my brother had Call of Duty 3 on his Xbox, like it came with his Xbox.
Yeah.
And then because it was a launch title for the 360, right? Call of Duty
Yeah.
3.
That sounds about right. I think that was
So we had
the
that.
first one that they did for consoles for sure.
Yeah, because I think I played a little bit of it, but I didn't play much. And then when Modern Warfare came out, I played a lot of that, and I might have played a lot of it because my friends had it, and my brother had it. But I remember playing a lot of that, and then Modern Warfare 2, I really played a lot of that,
Yeah.
and that's probably when I
me
got
too.
into getting COD regularly because I got all of them after from like Modern Warfare 2 up until like Black Ops 3. I think I have. I can't really remember. I definitely played all of them. But like, I think lots of people seem to have the same sort of thing going there. But yeah, with Modern Warfare, like it had the online how it is now. But I remember going back to Call of Duty 3 at one point. I can't remember why. I think my brother took our copy of Modern Warfare or something like that, so I wanted to play it. I don't know. For some reason, I went and played it. And the online on that is completely different. But it's so cool.
Yeah?
It's really fun. Yeah. Like, it's way bigger. I'd say it's more like Battlefield was.
Oh, right, okay.
It's not exactly the same as Battlefield, but it feels more like a war than the Call of Duty multiplayer that you think now, because that's just like a skirmish of a bunch of, I don't know what's going on.
16 men doing 360 no-scoped.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas when I played Call of Duty, it might just be because of the only people left playing it were the people who were really into it. But it was there's like vehicles and stuff in it. You're running around these sort of bigger maps, and it just, I don't know, it felt a bit more tactical. So I think the multiplayer in that is incredible. But I know what you mean. It's how the state of multiplayer military shooters are now, I think is probably more heavily inspired by Modern Warfare than...
Yeah, I mean, Modern Warfare's system of classes and like loadouts and then picking your perks and like those and the way XP works and like unlocking guns from XP and prestiging and like, well, if you use the red dot loads, you get the ACOG, and if you use the ACOG loads, you get this or whatever. Like that entire system of multiplayer around, not even like the actual style of games, but all of the shit surrounding it kind of went on to directly influence first-person shooters on consoles for like 8 to 10 years afterwards, didn't it, really?
Yeah. Pretty much.
Well, I mean, it's still going, isn't it? Because I know, obviously, I've already talked about both of these things you said. Don't really care now, but like Modern Warfare, the people who made Modern Warfare went on to make Titanfall, and that's exactly the same.
But it actually fixes a bunch of problems with the Modern Warfare XP system in a really, really smart and intelligent way.
Yeah, but it's expanding on that base, isn't it? It's not really changing anything too much. It's getting rid of some issues, but it's the same idea of these classes and picking your perks. You can customize a little bit. Maybe it's a bit less customization just because I think you've got fewer perks.
Yeah.
But I guess the perks are more powerful.
I think the class system was around before, but I think they just did it really, really well.
Yeah.
But it's like how... Sorry, you go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to say, like, a lot of the stuff that Modern Warfare did had been around before.
Yeah.
Modern Warfare just did it all together in a smart way that I think like hadn't been done before. Like Battlefield 1942 and Battlefield 2 were both out at that point.
Yeah.
And like both of those are first-person shooters with classes. Like Team Fortress was out, but I think the way that they wrapped it up in a really clever progression system and effectively made it an RPG in like a weird way, it was inspired.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the whole the whole getting things from things had done it before, like you said, but you've got that with all of these sort of turning points in games. I think there's always this one sort of crux game that's clearly changed everything, and like Modern Warfare is that for military shooters and maybe first-person shooters overall. But I think you have that same sort of thing for any of these things. It does a lot of things really well together, and like how Halo's not the first person. It wasn't the first person shooter on a console, and the other things had done stuff before, but then it really brought together a lot of things that made it important. And then obviously the control system's new, and that's what was really great. But you get all these things from all these different types of games where, they'll take some stuff that might have been done before, but just the way they do it and the way they integrate it with everything else, that's what makes it feel so good. And when something's a good feeling game, that's, I don't know, I think that's what helps make it so successful.
Yeah, dude,
they just put the package together and then bring it to the masses. It gets everyone really interested in these, basically.
Yeah. Exactly. And it demonstrates the viability of a marketplace as well, doesn't it? Like, Modern Warfare came out and was a huge thing, and everyone went, there is a market here to popularise console first-person shooters in a way that is so much more mainstream than they had been beforehand.
Yeah, for sure. It made it obvious that that's, I guess, where it's going, or that's what's coming out. And I that's probably sort of what happened with like League of Legends and Dota recently. These sort of esports games, they've shown that that's where gaming's going again, and that's where gaming has gone from that. These esports, like, people like watching games. These games that were fun to watch became big, and I think everyone's tried to incorporate that into their games now, and it's a similar thing. Obviously it's not the same, but it's a similar vein of it shows you what's really happening and what's needed to happen.
But it's funny, right? Because Call of Duty was never an esports sensation, really.
No.
Not in the same way that, like, so many other games have been and are.
Yeah, because, like, they've got Call of Duty esports championships, but and I think they do okay on Twitch and stuff. They do pretty well, but you never really hear that much about them. I think they end up being quite a bit of money, but it's still not that huge of an esports phenomenon. But I think you can see the effects of it in the game. You can see how they're trying to tailor it a bit more towards esports.
Yeah.
There's, like, the way the sort of the matchmaking in the multiplayer works is all a bit more fast-paced. Because I know that's an issue that lots of people had with, or not lots. With Halo 5, it was a similar thing. It was they very much geared it towards esports, and they were very clear about that. But it really affected the game, and it's a really different game. And it made it.
Yeah, it is. I know exactly what you mean.
It made it better for esports, but then a lot of the professional Halo players don't really like a lot of the changes. A lot of people want to just play classic Halo instead of having all this clamber and the bigger sort of radars and all these sort of things that it's got in it. So you can see the effects of esports affecting all these games, I think including Call of Duty. But yeah, it's weird that such like sort of gaming phenomenons haven't necessarily actually reached that level of other games that are newer, and maybe the games aren't even as successful, but on an esports level they're just like miles ahead, which is kind of strange almost.
Why do you think that Call of Duty never reached that professional level? Is it too fast paced, or it's lacking in depth?
I don't think you can't watch all of Call of Duty at once. Whereas I think a lot of the esports games that are really successful, it's a lot easier to watch a lot of what's happening at one time.
I'm going to pose something else as well, actually. Do you think it could also be to do with the fact that the community that sprung up around console-based first-person shooters so quickly became so infamously toxic that it was hard to distance the actual, like, high-tier competitive play from the 13-year-olds screaming racial slurs down their headsets on Xbox Live.
But I mean, I think that's probably a part of it. It's hard to be like, look at this great professional game when everybody just thinks of Call of Duty and Halo as lol, I fucked your mum. But at the same time, if you go on Twitch and watch Dota, it's the exact same thing.
Playing Dota, it's a toxic environment if you're playing on some servers.
Yeah, this is true. Dota is.
But I guess
I don't think toxicity is the limiting factor of that.
Yeah,
it does have less of a reputation, though, doesn't it? Like, I don't think if you asked any randomer on the street what they think of the sort of Dota community, they'd probably not even have an opinion. But if you asked people about their opinions on, like, people playing Call of Duty online, they're probably... not everybody's going to know, obviously, but I think a lot more people would think, oh, it's going to be people just swearing at you. So I guess that might actually be an aspect. It's a lot easier to build a business around, even if it is just as toxic. If not that many people think of it as toxic, it's probably easier to build a business around it.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess.
I wonder also, because with Dota, like, Dota is full of, like, flaming and trolling and slurs and hate, but I've always got the impression from the bits and pieces I've watched and, like, the very, very, very limited interaction I've had with Dota, that if you're good at Dota and is two good players playing against each other, or a number of different players playing against each other, then it's not as common for people to be arseholes. I've always got the impression with Dota that the arseholery and douchebaggery comes if you are a quote-unquote, like, noob, and people are like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you so shit at Dota? And then they're really, really awful to you. They say get good, right? Like, that is some raw fucking Dota right there. Whereas that's Call of Duty, even if you're good or bad or anything, people will make racial and homophobic slurs against you. It's the reason that they simultaneously invented and then also destroyed public chat in games on consoles, because people were like, oh, headsets are great. Oh no, headsets are terrible.
Yeah.
I agree with that, actually. In Dota, if you're playing at a high level, people are more likely to work together. And if you're playing at a mid to low level, even though people are not good, they tend to discourage even worse players by just flaming them that they're bad. And that's just how it works. Apparently.
Yeah.
People are terrible.
Yeah. I guess that probably is sort of what you're saying then, I guess, isn't it? It's if there's more of a respect thing at the higher levels, it's probably a bit easier. But I don't know. I mean, I think it's probably the same in Call of Duty. If those people who are playing the really good matches probably are a bit more respectful.
Yeah.
But
probably.
I guess it's harder to actually have. There's not as much ranking in it, is there? There are ranked playlists, but.
And also, right, like, Activision isn't putting millions of dollars behind Call of Duty to make it an esport, whereas Valve did.
Yeah.
Like, for everything we say about, Dota is an esport, why is that compared to that? There is a pretty solid argument to be made that's just Valve put loads of money behind Dota to make it an esport, and that's why the international is so huge.
But then I guess you could sort of more compare it to like PUBG or Rocket League or something, because those games are sort of these big. I don't know necessarily how esporty they are, but they're really watched games on Twitch and stuff, aren't they?
Yeah, I think Rocket League is still quite highly watched on Twitch, isn't it?
Yeah, and I guess it's because Rocket League is just like rocket car football. People watch football, so why not watch it with rocket cars?
It's good logic.
That is that logic. Put it. Yeah.
So it makes sense that people watch it, because that's exciting, right? If someone said, "Okay, we're going to the football ground today, but instead of football, there's going to be rocket cars," you'd definitely go.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
I think the big thing to compare it to is probably going to be Counter-Strike, isn't it?
Oh, true.
That is a big scene.
And Counter-Strike does have a pretty big competitive scene, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like CS:GO, but is that yet another thing where Valve have put enough money behind it that it can get big enough to sustain itself?
Maybe, but also I think there's I think it's a lack of teamwork in Call of Duty that ultimately takes it away from being competitive.
This is true.
It's harder to build the teams in Call of Duty. Yeah, I think if you're going into Counter-Strike, you're probably going to go in with a team, or you're just not going to do very well.
Yeah.
Whereas Call of Duty, there's nothing stopping you from playing alone. So I guess it's a lot harder to get into Counter-Strike, not with that sort of competitive mind. It's harder to play it casually, so I guess that's what changes it. But also, it's way more tailored, isn't it? Like, Call of Duty's tailored a little bit to esports, but it's obvious they've still got to tailor it to just the casual player.
Yeah.
Because that's who it's for at the end of the day. Whereas Counter-Strike is not for the casual player. They can tailor it to esports as much as they want.
And I guess the stakes in Call of Duty are different as well, right? Because like Counter-Strike, the very nature of a game of Counter-Strike, and I mean I haven't played CS:GO, but I played a fair bit of CS Source back in the day, and the stakes of a game of Counter-Strike are so much higher because if you die, then you're dead for that round.
Yes.
And it has its own weird internal progression structure with like buying your weapons at the beginning of the round, and like, oh, you have to like if everyone in your team all just buys the same fucking gun, then you're not going to be as balanced as if people buy weapons to suit the route they're taking, and like the main gameplay modes in it are purely team based, and so I guess it encourages cooperative play, right? Whereas Call of Duty, even in team deathmatch in Call of Duty, there's as many respawns as you want, and you don't need to. If you roll with a team, you will dominate because no one else operates as a team. It's just a smaller number of people to shoot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are other game modes in cards that are enjoyable, like Capture the Flag.
Oh yeah, totally. Like I was a
that.
big fan of Domination. Like I like those big map Domination games. They were great. Was it Domination? Yeah.
I think it is called Domination.
Yeah, because there's also an Unreal Tournament game mode called Domination, and now I'm trying to wonder. Yeah, it is Domination.
There is definitely a Domination in Call of Duty.
I haven't played a Call of Duty game competitively in a very long time. I
think Black Ops 3 might be the last one I played online.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think I played Ghosts, because Tom had it. I think that might be the last one I played the single player of.
So unfortunate
it's been a while.
To get out at.
I quite enjoyed it. It wasn't like great or anything, but it was still a fun Call of Duty game.
Fair enough.
But I mean, that's I wasn't playing it for sort of critical intrigue or anything. It was just a shoot bad guys kind of thing.
Well, Infinity Ward didn't agree because they finished it on a cliffhanger, and then their next game was in a completely different universe.
Sorry, that you cut out there, so I didn't hear that one.
Oh, sorry, I said Infinity Ward didn't agree because their next game is set in a completely different universe, and they finished Call of Duty Ghosts on a cliffhanger. So
nice.
Even they were like, "Oh no, we shit the bed on this one, guys."
Maybe it's not Ghosts I played then. I played something.
Was it Advanced Warfare?
Maybe. No, I think maybe I had Advanced. I don't know. I can't remember. It's so long now. It's a while since I.
Is Advanced Warfare the one with Kevin Spacey?
Yeah.
I did not play that one.
That one's really good.
Is it? I can't get into it. It's just into the story mode that is, but that's just really not exciting.
Is it because of all your changed opinions on Kevin Spacey now?
Maybe. No, that this is way before.
No, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool. They did some good stuff with it. But also, to be fair, I quite enjoyed the campaign in pretty much every Call of Duty I've played. Like, I enjoyed the campaign in Infinite Warfare as well, and the internet seemed to think that was the worst video game ever made. The internet's wrong, not for the first time. I thought it was really good. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it told a surprisingly a poignant story about the cost of war in a way that I saw quite a few reviews for Call of Duty World War II that actually said for all of the Saving Private Ryan-esque emotional manipulation Call of Duty World War II tries to do, it tells a less effective story about the human cost of war than last year's game, which featured a fucking robot who you talked to.
I mean, I guess it's probably a bit easier to talk about how war affects people and the loss of life and stuff when it's not real, because you can't offend anybody with. Well, you can, but it's a lot harder to offend anybody with this story about this made-up future war than it is to ruin your story about World War II, because people suffered through that, and it's probably a bit rude to to do it badly and mess something up. So you're going to sort of tread the ground a bit more carefully, and you got to take risks to make good things sometimes. So maybe that's why.
I mean, that's always been science fiction. Has always existed to help us study parts of our culture that we are uncomfortable with in an ambiguated fashion. Throughout science fiction, effectively it has been used to break out and then study elements of society in ways that allow you to so many of the best stories about racial segregation and prejudice have been told in science fiction between aliens.
Yeah,
definitely.
Because
District 9 is a great example, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, sure. So, I think there is definitely something. I think you're exactly right, Dylan. There is definitely a point where you go, well, actually, maybe it's a lot easier to tell a heartfelt and meaningful story about humanity when you can break it out into space. Especially since that robot was fucking sweet. That robot was a cool dude.
Was it like a helpful kind of guy that never goes bad on you?
Yeah, he was. Well, because it was the same year that obviously Titanfall 2 brought out their single player, where you've got a robot buddy who's fun to be with, and the two kind of both went for the same thing, where it's like you're the gruff human man, and then you become friends with the kind-natured robot who's good at murdering, and then
doesn't get sarcasm.
Yeah, I think they literally do this robot doesn't get sarcasm thing in Infinite Warfare as well. Yeah, I don't know.
I guess. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I think Call of Duty has been up and down all over the place.
Yeah.
No, definitely. I mean, I think the ones I've played, I've missed a lot of them, so it's harder for me to say. But the ones I've played, I've always had fun with, and I always you get lots of people who play the multiplayer straight off. But I think you're the same as me. I'll go into the single player first. I'll always start with single player, just because it teaches you how to play the game for one. It's basically a tutorial, and also most of the time they've actually tried.
Yeah,
so it's probably worth it.
Yeah, they have fairly well, not thought out. I don't think that's the right word, but it's nicely built. Storylines in all of them. They deserve playing. People shouldn't really be skipping them. It's not worth the value if you're gonna pay full price for the game and only play the multiplayer.
A huge amount of people spend a lot of time and money crafting large bespoke experiences full of set piece moments for those Call of Duty games, that it does feel almost disrespectful to pick up a Call of Duty game and go straight into the multiplayer and not touch the single player. And it's like, well, because I remember that, especially when the Modern Warfare games are coming out, and it was like Modern Warfare 2 and Black Ops And I knew people who were just going straight in. They never ever touched the single player, and especially going to like Modern Warfare 2 to 3. And I was like, I guarantee you that the majority of the development time on this thing was on the single player.
Yeah.
Like it feels almost mean at this point to not look at it, when as much as they put care into the additions they made for that multiplayer, a lot of it by that point, like they knew they had the model for an M4 down. No one had to spend hours painstakingly scanning and digitizing an M4 so they could put it in their video game. They had that. You know?
Yeah.
And if you think so many multiplayer maps are often based on bits of the campaign.
Yeah.
Not all of them, obviously, and obviously they've got to be changed. But I think once you've sort of developed your tools for map building and you've built your campaign levels, it's probably not easy, but it's probably not as much work as if you were just building just a multiplayer game. Obviously it is.
Yeah, you just rearrange the assets you have from single player and then test it.
Unless it's like Destiny 1 or whatever, when they have to re-fucking compile everything just to move a rock. That's probably quite difficult. But Call of Duty, I think, probably don't have those issues. You'd hope, at least.
Yeah.
No,
they probably streamlined it so well.
I'm fairly certain they're still using an incredibly heavily modified... Like, I think they still have bits of, like, id Tech engines in there.
Yeah.
Like, at some point...
Isn't it that... It's just, like, the id Tech netcode runs on... It's like everything's based on that, practically, isn't it? Like, I know Titanfall, I think... Well, I'm fairly certain Titanfall was. And obviously Titanfall's just based on the Modern Warfare stuff.
Yeah, it's just because that netcode is fucking sweet. I know, I think Modern Warfare 2, at least for its actual, like, graphics as well, used a heavily modified version of, like, id Tech 3, which I think is, like, the Quake 3 engine. Or something nuts. Or, yeah, it was something like that. I remember looking it up and just being absolutely boggled that that was, like, the engine they were still using. But also, like, isn't Titanfall made in the Source engine?
Yeah.
Really?
Which means you get some really funny, like, Gary's Mod style model pictures on the Titanfall subreddit sometimes. Just because you can get the Jack Cooper model into your... Like, you compose it and whatever.
Yeah, like,
okay.
It's funny because, like, obviously they're on, like, Source 2 now, and the Source engine can do so much more than... When you think of the Source engine, at least for me, I think of Half-Life 2 and how Half-Life 2 looks.
Yeah.
But it can do so much more than that now. However, when you look at Titanfall and you go, oh, there's no way that's the Source engine. And then you look at, like, the facial animations and you go, this is the Source engine, right? Because, like, those facial animations of the Source engine are so good in a really specific way. Like, the way
it's really obvious, yeah.
Yeah, the way Alex Vance's face animates in Half-Life 2 is incredible and like, they've done an incredible job like scanning that face in and doing that face animation, but no other game looks like that. Yeah, they still the Call of Duty games still use the IW engine, the core of which is id Tech 3.
Wow.
Well, they still use that.
Yeah, Infinite, or up to this list here is Infinite Warfare, at least, was Call of Duty... maybe Call of Duty World War 2 is different, but Infinite Warfare used IW7, which is a heavily advanced and altered version of IW2, which was a modified version of id Tech 3.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like...
It's mad sometimes, isn't it?
I can't imagine a huge amount of it is similar, but I imagine still they're probably still using some of John Carmack's rendering code, because that fucker's really smart and now literally just builds space rockets.
Yeah. I mean, going from Doom to space rockets is obviously the path.
It makes perfect sense.
It just makes
doesn't
sense.
Wait, he built space rockets? What?
Yeah, he left id to join SpaceX, and now he builds space rockets because he used to do it in his spare time. I think it was called like Texas Rocket Enthusiast or something, and he would make hobbyist rockets with him and his mates and like launch them up into space, and then.
Oh, okay.
I feel like. Oh no, hang on. What am I talking about? He fucking works at Oculus, doesn't he?
Yeah, he works at Oculus now.
But he makes space rockets in his spare time.
Yeah, so he's in charge of this company called Armadillo Aerospace.
Yeah,
and it's like a startup.
Because obviously there was that huge lawsuit, wasn't there? What did you say it was called? What was it called? Shaw, the space company that he works at?
Armadillo Aerospace.
All right, Texas Rocket Enthusiast was pretty close.
Yeah.
Armadillo's Texas, same thing.
It is based in Texas.
I think that, yeah.
Texas, so.
How did we get from Call of Duty to rocket companies?
John Carmack, baby.
That's
every time.
He's that linchpin. He links everything together.
Smartest motherfucker on the planet. His Twitter's well good.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
It's like twice a week he just posts. He poses an incredibly complex question about software coding to the Twitter world, and people just like swoon over it. It's great. It's really good. He's a really smart bloke.
Right, get this. He's announced a rocket racing league.
Wait, Rocket League in real life?
It's aircraft with rocket engines that race.
That sounds dangerous.
I'd be into that. Yeah, so this is 21 hours ago on his Twitter. I want to find the coordinates of the minimum/maximum value in a bicubic interpolation of a cell, given the 16 surrounding points. I'm going to just upsample 10 times and scan, but is there a handy closed form solution available?
Is he just getting other people to do his work for him?
And then the response is no, and a link to a book called Polynomial Resolution Theory that you can get on Google Books. And then someone's posted a set of incredibly complex polynomials underneath it. He's just the smartest dude. Yeah, I got a lot of love for John Carmack, especially since we're talking about how a lot of people use that Quake netcode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like my understanding is that when they first put out Quake, it had really, really bad netcode, and so he knocked out the Quake World netcode in like a week or something, and then that's the stuff that everyone still uses. Like in like a week, he basically invented the predictive netcode that first-person shooters use, just for fun.
Imagine your legacy being online multiplayer first-person shooters. It's a pretty good one.
It's a pretty sweet legacy to have.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the biggest
incredible,
genres,
wouldn't it?
As well.
Just the level it's at nowadays. It's just like, yeah, it's because of me. Whatever. Not to brag.
It's like just being like John Carmack or John Romero and just walking around going, yeah, all these first-person shooters, me.
He just goes into game occasionally. He's like, yeah, me. You can thank me. Although I imagine people would probably get quite excited if he just walked into game for other reasons anyway.
Yeah, dude.
I'd assume some people at least would recognise him.
You would hope, right? You would hope. I mean, to be fair, it's not like he's done a huge amount. He makes mobile games now, him and his wife.
Everybody makes mobile games now.
It's the place to be.
Yeah, he lives in Ireland and just hangs out and makes mobile games. Because he's fucking John Romero. Apparently in his house he's got a big cabinet full of a bunch of the original plasticine models that they scanned to make the sprites in Doom. Like a lot of the art in Doom was they modelled it in real life and then photographed it and scanned it in and used those scans to make the sprites. and so apparently he's just got a fucking like display case with all these sweet models in.
That's pretty cool.
I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
I think I've said this on this podcast before. They do the same thing for all the Titanfall models. Some guy just made them, and then they were like, "Yeah, those are cool. That'll be the models." And scan those in.
It's probably why those models look so fucking good.
Yeah, I can't. There's a name. I've had this exact, not knowing what it is. I should have googled it before. I think it was on the radio show. There's a name for what they do, but he just takes a bunch of other model kits.
Greebling.
Yeah, sounds right.
Greeblies. They call them Greeblies, don't they? The little bits that you go and like. It's like how every single ship in sci-fi has got bits from like one particular model of a Sherman tank on it or something.
Yeah.
I was watching something with Adam Savage, and he was like, "Yeah, if you watch."
It's the exact thing he talked about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if you watched, he said when he was working at ILM, and it's like every single ship in Star Wars films all feature the same parts from some fucking model of a German tank. Because I think they call them Greeblies or like Greeblings.
Yeah, it's just called Greebling. It's just fine detailing, like the little bits and bobs on every surface in sci-fi.
Yeah, so cool. They did that. They just took a bunch of models and built these humanoid figures out of a bunch of different models, and they just look dope.
That's
and
awesome.
It's cool to see that Doom did the same, despite it being sprites, which I love. That they built some models, scanned them in, and then were like, "Oh, we can't put this in a game. We'll just have to make some sprites."
Yeah, they were just like, "Well, we got to know what it looks like, right?" So they just got a guy to make a bunch of like plasticine molds of like Doom monsters, and it's fucking cool, man. It's really cool.
Well, it's a similar thing to something I was thinking about the other day. I was watching a bunch of videos about Zelda, and they were talking about. I think it was one specifically on Ganon, and he's not in. I think it was Zelda 2. But Ganon is a secret boss in it, but Ganondorf isn't. But there's concept art from that Zelda of Ganondorf being in it, and the concept art is super like anime and detailed and weird. And it's just like the sprites can't represent what that concept art was at all, because it was like really pointy shoulders, and he was all anime. He was like the stereotypical skinny anime bad guy. Like, what's his name from Garrow Mark of the Wolves? The one that we always say is the typical anime bad guy.
Oh, right, yeah. The main bad dude. One of the bosses, who's not the giant guy.
No. Not the... Well, yeah, him too. He's very similar. I'm thinking of...
Oh, Freeman.
Freeman, yeah.
Yeah, Freeman from Garrow Mark of the Wolves, who is a total piece of shit.
Yeah, it looks very like that, except with a big pointy shoulder coat on, and it's just like, how can you turn that into a sprite that represents that in any way? But they did it anyway, which I respect.
Fuck yeah.
And I like the fact that they did it for Doom too.
In Doom, they made the player character, Cyber Demon, and Baron of Hell were made in clay, and then the Archvile, Mancubus, Spider Mastermind, and Revenant were created in latex and metal. And then all the other creatures were just drawn by hand. And if you look, this is totally not going to work for a podcast, but there's a picture of one of the models they made, and I'm just going to whack it in the Discord chat. You can just have a little look at that, because it's a pretty cool picture. That's on the Wikipedia page for Development of Doom. If anybody wants to look at that, it's a picture of a Spider Mastermind.
That is intense, to be fair.
Yeah, dude.
It's really cool.
They built it out of latex and metal, and then scanned that in, and were like, "Yeah, that's going to be our boss for this chapter."
You got to respect that. It looks like it's broken though, which is sad.
That picture was probably taken like years after the fact or something.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's a pretty gnarly looking thing.
Yeah,
I never played the Dooms, so yeah.
It also sort of shows you how much actual work goes on behind these games. And, like, I guess this ties back into the whole fact it seems a bit disrespectful not to play the Call of Duty single player, because I bet they do really similar things.
Yeah, totally.
I bet, obviously not exactly the same, because Call of Duty doesn't have monsters in it, but like
Hey, zombies.
They'll really think about all this stuff, and whatever. Like you might not respect Call of Duty for whatever reasons, or you might be a bit snobbish about it, but there's no way they don't put hours of really hard work, and there's people who have tried really hard to make this a great game.
Well, especially
Even
with
if sometimes it doesn't pay off.
Especially with some of those later ones that were science fiction, because some of the like designs on like the ships and costumes in Infinite Warfare, and the designs on the like mech suits that you wear in Advanced Warfare just look awesome. And there's so much detail that's gone into them, and especially with Advanced Warfare, you can see where they've taken real life influences to try and make it be like, yeah, this is maybe what soldiers fighting in 2028 or whatever would wear. It's cool. It's really cool.
Was it Advanced Warfare that had those the drone grenades or something like that? They had
Definitely. I remember that
high-techy grenades that were just. I remember seeing the trailer. I think it was at E3, and just thinking those grenades are sick. And it's like you said, it's those sort of tiny little things that just someone probably spent a long time designing just that tiny thing that no one's really ever going to look closely at, because it's hard to look closely at a grenade in a game.
And then like someone else probably spent even longer making those grenades feel good to use.
Yeah.
And then someone's like, I don't have the 4 hours it takes to play through one of these campaigns. I guess I'm not going to bother. Or like 6 hours. I'm going to go straight into this multiplayer instead.
Yeah, I think
Respectful.
but it's not necessarily even like it's not intentionally disrespectful. Obviously, some people only want to play the multiplayer, but I think it should be people should like, even if maybe they think that it's not for them. I think if you like the multiplayer, there's no way you're not going to like the single player, because it's just easy mode multiplayer. You can just kill everyone for a while.
Yeah,
you get to mess around with all the guns you'd never use in multiplayer as well.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes the guns that are maybe a bit shit in multiplayer end up being really fun in single player, just because you're not playing against real people. So it's easy to use that ridiculous gun that gets you killed easily, even though it's like dope as shit, like a stupid shotgun or whatever. Because maybe it's only got a single shot, but it just fucking kills 10 people.
Yeah.
So I think,
and all the vehicle sections as well. You can never get that in a multiplayer, except maybe through some kill streaks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like the set piece moments in some of those campaigns. Like I know you mentioned, Kyaw, some of those. You played some of those earlier Call of Duties, and like obviously Call of Duty 2 is known for some of its incredible set piece moments, and like the fact it went between Americans on D-Day. And it was British soldiers all over Europe in the SAS, wasn't it? Because that's where the original Captain Price came from.
Yeah.
And then that was also the game that had the Russian front, didn't it?
Yeah, and also the desert front as well.
Yeah.
That was pretty amazing.
Yeah, like because I know I've not played, but I've seen the footage from Call of Duty 2 where you play as like a Russian soldier. Like storming Stalingrad to take it back from the Germans, and they only have enough guns to like hand out one rifle to every 3 people, and like you look ahead in line and realise you're not going to get a rifle, and you just have to fucking play like the first chunk of that mission without a gun, just like getting shot at and running around and stuff.
Yeah,
and that's cool. You don't get an experience like that in the multiplayer.
No, definitely not.
It's sad that people miss out on these things, because I think
it is sad. You're right.
I think people would have a different opinion of Call of Duty as well. Maybe when you see these, obviously the general public opinion of Call of Duty is probably based heavily on the multiplayer at this point. Maybe not in the past, but nowadays it probably is. But I think it's one of these things that's worth just considering and being aware of. That they're just really cool bits. Like people don't have these same opinions of, so everybody, you always get like Call of Duty is too violent for people playing, and it's whatever. But nobody really says that about these dramatic war films.
Yeah.
And I know it's different, but there are these bits in these. There are bits in, like you were saying about Infinite Warfare. It really tells you about the loss of human life, and like the effects of war and stuff. But nobody, you don't like people. My cousin really wanted to watch. She's like 14, I think. She really wanted to watch Dunkirk just because Harry Styles in it, and nobody was saying don't watch Dunkirk because it's a war film and it's got violence in it,
and it's goddamn harrowing. And that movie fucked me up, man.
Yeah, but like, if it was a Call of Duty game that had Harry Styles in it, they'd be like, oh no, you're too young to play Call of Duty or whatever. Actually, at 14 they might not, because, you know, we're a bit loose with our morals nowadays. But,
That's fair.
like, you always hear that, don't you? Kids shouldn't be playing these violent games. But they've got really good stories to tell, and they've got important lessons to learn. Sometimes. Obviously,
the good ones
there are some games that... Yeah, there are lots of games that don't, and it's... Like, I don't think I learned anything playing Bulletstorm. I just shot and kicked people.
I learned it's really funny to say shit and dick in every sentence.
It's really funny. And man, I learned that from... Fuck. Deadwood.
Oh, well, yeah. Our swear
Except-
engine knows what's up.
Every word, every sentence swear words. That's what it's about. I don't need no Bulletstorm to tell me that.
What was the game that was really impactful about war? I think it's Spec Ops: The Line. People were raving about how the storyline took on a very dark turn.
We spoke about Spec Ops: The Line in our very first episode, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, wait to listen to our podcast, Kyaw.
I think
We've
we've
already-
already the first episode.
Oh no,
Pretty
that was
sure
our
I
second
just forgot
episode.
about
Our first episode was
okay.
Battleborn. Our second episode was Spec Ops: The Line. Yeah, no, Spec Ops: The Line was cool. It did good stuff. Like it wore its influence on its sleeve. Like no one, there is literally a character in that game called Conrad, and it is as based on Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness as any piece of media possibly could. Like it didn't try to hide what it was all about, but no, Spec Ops: The Line was cool. Thoroughly enjoyable.
I think that inspired one of our running themes through this podcast as well, of viewing games as art, didn't it?
Yeah, try and I guess I would like to think the point of this podcast is to try and each episode draw out a little bit of critical thinking about what these things mean, even if it is quite base level, and that is definitely that's a good one to open with, because you can have a pretty good critical thought quite easily about Spec Ops: The Line, can't you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's with Call of Duty, you can too, but you've maybe got to dig a little bit deeper, just because maybe of the whole sort of... It's almost like this persona surrounding Call of Duty.
Wait, persona?
Not...
I like
I
this.
still haven't played Persona 5.
Oh, mate. It's pretty
But-
anime.
You've got to really dig... You've got to actually get into Call of Duty to... most conversations about it probably never touch upon all these things, I guess. So it's a lot harder to view it as that kind of thing. But I think it still should be. I think there's still bits about it that really, not all of them maybe and not all the time, but I think a lot of them do tell you a lot about us and about war and stuff. And I think it's, again, a running thing through this episode at least. It's a shame that lots of people miss that and just, shout racial slurs at strangers.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
hidden behind all the teenage.
Sorry.
It's hidden behind all the teenage stigma, isn't it? It's just people just think of it as silly games that teenagers play.
Yeah, exactly. Which is such a strange idea, right? Like, I don't think World War II things ever used to be thought of this teenage pastime, and it was like looked down upon by adults.
No.
Like war films and books about wars were always these kind of. Everybody knows like a granddad who really
loves
that,
film.
not loves that stuff, but really gets into them.
He's
and
well
I mean,
into Das Boot.
Exactly, and it's nobody looks down on that with this kind of, like Chaw said, teenage stigma.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess that's also trying to bring games into the critical conversation, isn't it? Which, like, for as much as there is now critical conversation about games, and and the tone of it is improving, games are not in the wider critical conversation in a way that they probably should be.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, like going back to that, like those bits from Call of Duty 2, Chaw, like they tell an interest. They provide an interesting experience, and through the medium of video games, they give people who, and thank God for this, will never know what it's like to have to face German machine guns on the fucking beaches on the shore in Stalingrad without a gun. But for a very brief second, you can feel something like approximating a minuscule fraction of that level of panic. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I think it's fucking cool that we've managed to find a medium that can do that, even in Call of Duty, its most infamously menial, like farcical output, and yet still we can pick these points from throughout its history that have given experiences we believe are worthwhile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, it's one of these things that I think, like you say, hopefully it does change. Hopefully we do get this more people. I think it will, because we've got it's a whole older generations looking down on it kind of thing. But as more and more, like, there's not really many kids who don't play games nowadays, is there? So as they get older, I think games will just be a part of life. In the same way that, like, every generation of media has this. People thought this about TV. People probably definitely thought this about books when books started being... Like, nobody read books hundreds of years ago, did they?
People didn't think the talkies would catch on.
Exactly. It's the same thing. And now look at all the critical analysis you have of films and how... So, I mean, I think obviously there's still this whole hierarchy of cultural significance in that people probably think books are more worthwhile than films, and films are more worthwhile than TV, and then TV is... Although I think probably TV and games are... TV might be sort of slightly edging ahead nowadays with sort of the whole HBO and silver screeny vibe of TV that you're getting. But there's this clear, I don't know, almost structure to leveling of how media is deemed worthy and relevant. But I think games are moving up. I wonder what will be next. What will be underneath games?
Mobile games?
Oh yeah, yeah, maybe.
Someone's going to make the sequel to Candy Crush that blows everyone's fucking mind.
Well, there was that. I remember ages ago, back when iPads were just like iPads rather than tiny computers. And then the guys who, I think it was the Epic Studio people, or maybe Epic Studios bought them, and they made a really insane engine that ran on iPads.
Well, it was a Swedish developer, who put out Shadow Complex, and then they made Infinity Blade, which was the Unreal Engine running on iPads, and I think that made them absolute fucking bank, and they just made better and better ways to get the Unreal Engine to run on iPads. I believe I think there's... What are they called? The guys who made Shadow Complex. They're not called Grin. That's the other Swedish developer who did Bionic Commando. I don't remember the name of them, but they did Shadow Complex, which is also a sweet game made in Unreal Engine. But yeah, exactly. Like, that was a mobile game that managed to break out of the platform in its own way. Chair Entertainment is what they're called.
So the thing I was thinking of, I think it came out the same time as Infinity Blade, and it was by Epic Games.
Oh, right,
Epic Citadel.
Oh, okay, right.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't a game, really. It was, you walked around this town. Citadel. And it was just this incredibly, like, amazingly well-rendered city. And I just remember, because it came out, I think it wasn't just the iPad, I think it might have been the iPhone as well. And just like, holy shit, phones can do this? That's crazy. So I guess that's
sweet,
that kind of thing, isn't it? That's that whole... Although, weirdly, I think mobile games then sort of went down this odd loot box precursor path and became less about actual really cool games on a phone and more just about, like, fighting games with energy crystals and Candy Crush.
You don't need good graphics on... you don't need good graphics to tell great stories anyway.
Well,
Things
no, of course, but...
click and point storytellers, they're amazing. They have great stories in them.
Have you guys seen anything?
You can easily cater those. You can easily cater the click and point market to mobile crowd because they're easy to put on a less graphically powerful thing, right?
That's like almost my point, is that I think this Epic Citadel thing, it came out 8 years ago now. It came out in 2010.
Oh god, that was 8 years ago.
So phones should be able to do... Well, they can. I mean, they released a Call of Duty game on iOS recently, didn't they? Or they released Nazis, maybe.
Yeah, some version of Call of Duty.
So you can play sort of Xbox 360 level games on your iPhone, but you don't get those. No, you do, but you never see them, do you? No, the mobile games people play are
because
like...
controlling them is like arse, though, isn't it? Also,
That's
not to derail the point, but trying to control those games with a touch interface is so poor.
No, that's true. Yeah, and like there's been attempts to get sort of like phones with controllers built in or whatever. Nobody ever cares enough because why would you bother? But there must be a way of making these games like it's the same. Nobody thought first-person shooters could work on console until Halo came along.
Yeah, exactly right. Like GoldenEye was interesting, but there is not a single person in the fucking world who thinks GoldenEye played well. It played well enough that it could do what it needed to do, but no one picked up GoldenEye and went, well, shit, they've done first-person shooters.
Yeah. I never played GoldenEye when I was a kid, so then whenever, I think it was Tom again, we played GoldenEye, and he loved playing old games in our house, but we played GoldenEye, and I just remember this is awful. I'm having the worst time. And it's because it's like it's the same reason I don't really like San Andreas that much. I don't have the nostalgia behind it making it enjoyable for me. But like Nightfire is pretty fun because they actually improved on it and it's got the same vibe. But
yeah, totally.
Yeah, I can't stand GoldenEye, but I know what you mean. It's nobody thought of those controls as good. So maybe the same thing will happen. Maybe there's that's gonna become the new sort of looked down upon thing. Maybe, but at the same time, you can do mobile games anywhere. It's harder to do like PC gaming anywhere. Although I guess maybe the Switch is changing that.
Yeah, totally. Like the Switch has enacted a paradigm shift in the indie game market in 9 months, and it's fucking remarkable because like indie games come out now and their release is immediately followed by a chorus of people saying, when's it coming to the Switch? And then it comes to the Switch, and apparently those games are doing well on the Switch.
Is it really? Cool.
Yeah, like the Switch is becoming a place where you play first-party Nintendo games and you play indie games. Because third-party AAA titles that have come to the Switch have almost exclusively been shoddy, or like only impressive in so much as they got it to run on the Switch. Whereas, like, fucking Stardew Valley has come to the Switch and sold like gangbusters because Stardew Valley is a perfect Switch game.
Yeah. It's a perfect indie machine, isn't it? I mean...
Yeah. It plays pixel art games well on a really high-quality screen that you can carry around with you. So it's like, fuck yeah, why wouldn't it be on the Switch?
It's mad and maddening that AAA games they just never convert well to Nintendo devices, and I guess it's because the Nintendo devices aren't really ever as powerful. But it's just so annoying because it's always people then are like, oh well, why would I get that? I can't play this or that on it. But it's just like Nintendo, they've always, like, the Wii U had it, and I kind of really wanted to get a Wii U just for some games that you could only get on the Wii U, like all the Zelda games and Mario Maker, and like even Smash Bros. And Mario Kart is just fun stuff, isn't it? And it's just annoying that that's the only things you can get. But now with these indie games coming to it, it's really great because it's like there's a second reason to have it now. God damn, I want one.
Yeah.
Why is it that portability is... Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, I'm looking at the top 15 games on the Nintendo Switch eStore right now in my hands, and it's 15 games. 7 of them are indie games, and the other 8 are first-party Nintendo releases. Oh, wait, no. And then 7 of them are indie games, 7 of them are first-party Nintendo releases, and the odd one out at number 11 is FIFA 18.
Brilliant.
So yeah, like it is literally there's no delusion to it. It is a game that is a console that plays indie games and first-party Nintendo games, and it does both of those really well.
That's so good. That just makes it like it makes me want it more. I don't want another. Like I've got a console that I can play AAA games on. I don't want another one of those. I just want my Nintendo machine.
You want your fucking weird portable thing that you can throw in a bag and pull it out, and you can play Zelda, Mario, and all the hottest indie releases straight off Steam.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that would be really great.
Yes, it's pretty cool, mate. I don't know if you know. Nintendo Switch is a pretty sweet bit of kit.
I never was really into portable gaming, I guess. I don't know. Whenever I want to play a video game, I would sit down somewhere nice and like get into it rather than having to play it somewhere outside my house, if you know what I mean. It doesn't sit well with me. I don't get it.
Well, I mean, it's not you don't like go for a walk, sit in the park and play portable games. I think it's more themed towards that if you're on a train or take it to work for playing in your break or whatever. It's not like play these games outside.
Go play outside.
I played the Switch on a train recently. Exactly.
It's perfect for that.
Okay.
I played like a couple of moons in Mario Odyssey sitting on a train. Yeah, like that's what it is. It's people who want to commute, and then also like it's if you have to commute, if you have to have a long flight, if you're a child who has to sit in the back of a car. Like, shit, dude, I played basically almost all of Pokemon Emerald one summer that we were driving to a lot of different places in the UK a lot. And it was like, well, I'll sit in the back of the car and play shit tons of Pokemon Emerald.
Yeah. I think I've done the same thing with various Pokemon games.
I couldn't do this because I have motion sickness.
Okay, yeah, that would explain why you don't know what portable game is about.
I just used to feel ill in the car while I played Pokemon.
Well, you just keep going.
Yeah, because Pokemon's sick.
Pokemon transcends wellness.
It's not even that good. I kind of hate playing Pokemon nowadays just because it's so slow. But at the same time, it's brilliant. Like, it's so much fun. So, like, you know, feeling well when I can catch Pikachu.
Alright, that's fair enough.
Yeah, dude, that's... Can't say fairer than that, can you? Fuck feeling well when I can catch Pikachu.
It's my life motto. Like, you can either feel really nice and not go outside in the freezing rain, but also outside in the freezing rain, there's a Pikachu! You go catch the Pikachu, right?
You fucking know it, mate.
You're gonna get ill, but you're gonna catch a Pikachu. This life motto holds up. It's standing up to several tests of scrutiny.
Also, you don't get ill from going in the rain anyway, so it's all good.
Oh, that was so good.
But yeah, I really
so Call of Duty.
Yeah, I know, right? We're so good at staying on topic here.
I don't know. I think I can't even remember how we got to there off Call of Duty. But I think like, sure. Do you have like, is there anything else about Call of Duty that you wanna throw out? Like, is any other thoughts that you've thoughts that you've thought?
I don't think so. That's about. We've explored a lot of things about it. Everywhere, really. Multiplayer, single player, art, really. So
Yeah, like
I don't think so. Yeah.
what's a quick round the table? What's everyone's opinion of Call of Duty Zombies?
I don't like it, but I appreciate why people do.
Okay.
I've had fun on it, but I don't like it overall. Just because it stresses me out too much.
Oh, okay. So like the wave-based model is not your thing.
It's the building. It's not the wave-based model. I like wave-based games because I really liked Horde in Gears of War, and they did it.
Right.
I think that was sort of the starter of these kinds of modes. But I hated making sure the walls and windows were still blockaded.
Okay.
It just stresses me out too much, so I can't play it. I can play the ones where you don't have to do that, like the George Romero one in whichever one that was, Black Ops 2 or Black Ops 3.
Yeah,
I like that.
That is fair.
But I don't like the original zombies.
Okay.
What about you, Kyaw?
I played the original Zombies quite a lot. I enjoyed it. It was a good time to play with just friends online, and it was a lot of fun. That's my opinion. It was like a time sink, right? You keep playing, and you try to get more levels. I think, right? That's what it was.
Yeah.
Based on
What's the furthest round you can get to, right?
I can't even remember, man.
Yeah, no, but I mean
I don't know how it goes out.
That's like the driving force behind it. It's like how far can you get in this? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the talking point, right, between friends. Like, where did you get to?
It's like dogs at level 5. Yeah, I don't know. I think Zombies is bad. Personally, I don't know. I think if you sit down with like 3 guys and some beers or gals, and you play like it locally, it's a pretty fun time. But most things are. I think as an experience, I don't know. I just think it's not hugely fun. I don't think the zombies are a fun enemy to engage with. I think their weird ranking up of the zombies' durability from round to round is a bit shit as well. Like making it so that in the first round they take this much damage, and the next round they take double damage, and so on and so forth. I think it's just a bit. Yeah.
It was how many melees it took to kill it, wasn't it? It was first round it was 1, second round 2, etc. Goes on and on.
Yeah.
I really liked Zombies Arcade in Black Ops.
Was that the top-down dual joystick shooter?
The dual stick shooter. I thought that was brilliant. That was great fun. Me and my brother used to play that all the time, and that was completely different because that was you had to run through a level rather than you had to like defend it and be stressed out. And I thought that would be perfect for mobiles. It's a shame they've not put that on mobile.
I'm actually shocked that they haven't.
Because it's exactly what would work, isn't it? Because all you need is the 2 touchscreen thumbsticks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then the other half to this question is, how do people feel about Spec Ops? As in Call of Duty Spec Ops, the mode.
I loved that. I thought that was brilliant.
Oh, it's the co-op mode, is it?
Yeah.
I didn't play it that much.
Oh, mate.
Most people just wanted to play zombies online when I was playing.
I think Spec Ops wasn't on the Zombies ones originally.
No,
was it? Spec Ops was Infinity Ward and Zombies was the other one.
Treyarch,
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, mate, Spec Ops was so fucking good. The amount of time I spent playing Spec Ops in Modern Warfare 2, it's just incredible.
Yeah, same. I put a lot of hours into getting that right.
Yeah.
Like getting sort of... It was... Because it was trying to get the medals at first, wasn't it? And then just beating your best time on. Because you could do the Spec Ops... can't remember what they called it, but the training room at the beginning of Modern Warfare. Modern Warfare 2. That was one of the Spec Ops, wasn't it? The Pit, yeah, that one. It was all about just doing that over and over again until you got your best time. Very similar to the Gauntlet in Titanfall, but I never did the Pit on Spec Ops with 2 people on one controller. So clearly not to the same level.
Have you never heard this, Joel?
No?
Clearly didn't watch our live stream, you bellend.
Was that a PB for both of us that we got?
No, I've done like maybe a second or two better, but it was
Okay.
it was so close.
Because
I was shocked.
Yeah, we were playing the Gauntlet at the beginning of Titanfall 2 to try and get our best times, sure. And Dylan controlled all the movement with a controller sitting on the sofa, and I controlled all of the looking and shooting with a mouse sitting behind him because we were playing the PC version, and you could use both of them at the same time. And we did 2-player Gauntlet runs, and after like a couple of practice tries, we absolutely dominated my PB and got like surprisingly close to Dylan's PB. It was really something.
That's really cool.
It's because
Which,
like the
live stream was it on?
the movement on it is so independent from the looking, it doesn't matter too much. So it like obviously you still have to work together really well. It's really hard, but it's not as hard as you'd think. I think.
Yeah, I felt pretty good about that.
Yeah, me too.
We did good work for sure.
Go us.
You should be proud.
Yeah. Also raised so much money then. I'm proud of us for what we did that day. Titanfall gauntlet runs and raising money for charity.
We Jack and I had another conversation about Monster Hunter last week, Dylan. In which
is he enjoying it?
Well, because we were talking about games coming out, and Monster Hunter Worlds is coming out on the 26th.
Yeah.
Of January, I think. And so he was talking about being hyped for that, and it was like, how do you feel about it? I was like, well, my opinions on Monster Hunter are infamously well known at this point, I think.
Yeah. That really threw a spanner in the day.
It threw a spanner in about an hour of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still sometimes think about that incident and break out in a cold sweat, but, that's my problem.
What exactly happened?
Gotcha! It's like you don't
I
even
don't
love
think
us.
I saw this part. Look, I had things to do that day, alright?
Yeah, whatever, man.
It really ruined my run of Super Hot, because I had to turn it off and be like, okay, everyone needs to calm down.
I had a fight with a guy on the internet, and it was only slightly my fault.
Okay.
It was while we were streaming, and I think you jokingly insulted Monster Hunter, right? Like, not even seriously.
Yeah.
You said some comment about it, and then her brother and her brother's friends who were watching didn't appreciate that you didn't like Monster Hunter, and it all fell apart. And
things got pretty shoddy for a bit.
I think both sides maybe got a bit too aggressive. And all of us in the room were just kind of like trying to diffuse the situation. And then all the people on the chat were just insulting Mark. And Mark was insulting them back.
I say, the record to show, I insulted him once, and then just kind of sat there like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. It all went a bit haywire.
It wasn't my finest moment, but I do think that it also wasn't entirely my fault.
No, it wasn't. It definitely wasn't.
Every now and then I think about it, and I'm like, ooh, that was rough.
Yeah.
It's like, there's part of me that's glad that archive is lost to the internet forever.
I'm still so sad about that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gone. It's not even saved on Twitch.
It was on
We
YouTube.
did it on YouTube, and it just never rendered, did it?
I think YouTube is still saying. I filed like a "Hey YouTube, what's going on?" and just never got a response about it either.
Nice.
Yeah, but I think it still says in the videos on that account that file is still rendering.
Maybe one day it will actually just appear.
Yeah, in like another 3 years, it's gonna be like, you've got this 48-hour long MP4. Because I think that's what it spits out. I think it just spits out MP4s, and like I don't want a 48-hour long MP4. I don't even think I have the kind of software I'd need to cut that up.
No. At least we had fun, though, and there's probably a lot of things on there that we don't want saved, so...
Yeah. Apart from that one incident, 47.5 hours of it were pretty good.
Yeah, but I mean, it did all start falling apart when we were quite tired and, playing genital jousting.
That was weird. All that dong stuff was pretty weird as well. Yeah.
It's a good thing it's lost.
And also when we OBS'd Facebook and then live streamed Jack throwing up to Facebook so we could live stream Jack throwing up out to YouTube.
What?
Yeah.
That sounds ridiculous.
You went places, man.
Some shit happened.
The things 48 hours do.
I played a number of different Neo Geo games while submerged in ice water, and it made the lower half of my body go completely numb. That was pretty weird.
I missed that, I think.
You had a teaspoon of hot sauce and cried? And then Jay was very confident about it.
I didn't cry. I was just fucked up real bad, wasn't I? I was just like sitting there whimpering and coughing and just like, ah.
I've still got that hot sauce.
It's good hot sauce.
It is tasty. We're on an hour and 20 minutes now, by the way. This is our longest podcast yet. We should maybe wrap it up.
Yeah, that's a fair point. We don't want to go too long. We don't have... Honestly, I was going to say we don't have the audience, but we just literally don't have the level of being interesting to go for 3 hours.
It's a big stretch from 1 hour 20 minutes to 3 hours.
Yeah.
Well,
we might need a different topic.
I was going to say like we don't have like the audience to go for like a 3 hour monster like some of these other big video game podcasts.
Yeah.
I was like, we just don't actually have the level of interest to go for 3 hours, I think.
I mean, I don't think Matt even listens to this podcast, so...
No.
We've lost our one audience member anyway.
Every now and then, one of those accounts that just likes random files on SoundCloud likes one of our videos, and I get really excited for a brief moment. Or one of our audio clips. I'm like, oh, this is cool. And they're like, oh, wait, no, this is just a bot. This is a SoundCloud bot.
It's just so sad.
Oh, well, shouting at... We could have also named it Shouting into the Void, because that is effectively what we're doing.
But sometimes you need to do that.
I keep telling myself that it's not for other people, it's for us.
It is, though, isn't it?
It is.
It's all the radio show was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's not like anyone ever tuned into student radio at 2 o'clock on a Saturday.
And if they did, they heard us talking about video games and thought, nah, fuck that.
But I was hoping for an annoying DJ with some beats.
Or even just the automatic DJ.
Oh yeah, no, the automatic DJ was pretty good.
Best DJ. That's mean. Some of them are alright.
Yeah, that's not fair. We literally co-hosted with one of them. We can't really be too shitty to him.
He's got like an actual radio show now as well.
On like actual radio?
I don't know where it is, but he seems to still be doing stuff, and I don't think it's student radio.
Good for him. He deserves success.
Shout out to Henry.
He knew what was up. Wasn't the greatest host of the video game show, but he never really tried.
It's just because he wasn't there enough, really. Anyway.
Yeah. I think the fact that we've spent the last 20 minutes of this hour and 20-minute podcast not actually talking about video games and just reminiscing about our lives means it's time to go, guys.
At least we were reminiscing about video game radio shows. It's close enough.
Yeah, I think it's close enough. I don't know, maybe one day we'll talk about some of the games we played on that show. I think there's probably a critical conversation to be had about Super Hot.
Well, definitely.
Definitely a one to have about Mario Party 5, if you don't mind the critical conversation being me shouting the word shit for an hour.
That can be a thing for our Patreon supporters.
Bonus pod for the Patreon supporters. It's just a chorus of all of us screaming shit into a microphone.
Like Halo style, the Benedictine monk Halo chanting kind of thing. Just shit.
Mario Party. God damn. And on that note, on that bombshell, it's time to go.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh wait, no, we didn't do any shout-outs.
Do we have any?
No. We should though, probably, right? I'm not going to shout out Jack's channel because I think he's not even shouting at his own channel anymore. I think Cracker Jack is not happening.
He
But
still
what
does FIFA stuff, doesn't he?
I think he does actually still put on a tie and do FIFA Manager mode, and I think that is in itself quite novel.
Yeah.
But
Shout out to video games in general.
yeah, shout out to. I mean, this can be found on iTunes and SoundCloud. Search the name. I think we come up on both. We've definitely come up on iTunes as Shouting Over Static.
Nice.
And I think you have to look for, if you look for the creator, Low Expectations Media, on SoundCloud and YouTube, you'll find this. I'm really behind on my YouTube uploads. I need to get that sorted out. Actually, I don't know. Maybe if we can make it to the same number of episodes as the radio show, then we'll try and get more of a social media presence and get on Facebook or something. Who knows?
We still have our Facebook. We just don't do anything with it.
Yeah, I think all the branding's wrong as well, but we could start doing something with that.
Anyway,
Either way, I feel like now we've shouted that out. So I have been Mark,
I've been Dylan.
I've been Kyaw.
and we have rambled on for over an hour and 25 minutes on Shouting Over Static, a video game show and tell project. Bye. You guys are all supposed to join in.